Hello people, and welcome back to part 4 of the Noobs Guide to City Skylines. Hope you're having a wonderful day. And thanks so much for all the support during our last time out when we introduced the After Dark DLC and started playing with some tourism and nightlife vibes. You guys really enjoyed it, and all agreed as well it's a nice use of the tourism assets that can be hard to use in certain places. However, in today's episode we are going to work with high density residential for the first time and talk about how we can make what can be one of the more ugly zonings if care isn't taken. Try and make it look somewhat nice. Also bring a university in today alongside the SNOWFALL DLC, which is the next in the release order list that we'll work with today. So mainly trams, but we'll talk about some other stuff that comes with it too. Got plenty in store today. Let's get started, shall we? Okay, so I have loaded back into City Skylines again, and I can see now that my 2 landfill sites, or 2 of the 3 that we've placed, are currently full. During our last milestone, we unlocked the vanilla incineration plant, which is now a building that can be used to empty out these landfill sites. So this is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to place a couple of them along this road here. They'll only be temporary until we rip out this highway interchange once we come to introduce mass transit. But for right now, what we can do is come over to these 2 landfill sites and ask them to empty by hitting this icon right here. As the game plays, you will now notice that garbage trucks will leave these guys. They will head to the incineration plant. They will drop off some garbage, and then this will slowly fall back to 0%. The incineration plants will also produce power. You'll notice they have a power output depending on how much garbage they are receiving. So that's going to help support our power demand as well. So now that that's taken care of, we can see that we have some big boy demands for high density residential. So just mass zoning high density residential kind of like this isn't a good idea because it gets very ugly very quickly. I would strongly suggest that when you start working with high density residential patterns that you stick with specifically zoning, okay? Like we have been doing for the majority of this series. But there's a few things that I want to place down before we start actually zoning, and this is going to be some parks and plazas, okay, in various different positions. I'm going to start expanding my road network now. Let's bring this one maybe as another tile up so we have some room for some pathways. Okay, I'm going to bring that through. I'm relatively happy with that. Alright, and then why not one down here too. We can also have our buses stop here as well, and we can use that same kind of bus stop road detailing trick, right? Because we're in such a small stretch of road here, we can just widen out those sidewalks exactly like we did over here. Okay, with the bus terminals. So that's going to be nice. And let's start bringing in some high density residential zoning. So again, I'm going to stick to kind of 4x4 and 3x4 patterns. I also want perhaps a basketball court in here too. Alright. Maybe a 4x3 asset here. Let's continue to expand out the road network here. Let's go for one more shorter than that. There we go. And again, we can discuss the idea already of some new frontage systems now, so it's not always connected, right? But we can start playing with road against road action. And we can see now just how everyone's going to start linking together. Let's just give it a little time here. So once the high density residentials reach levels 4 and 5, some of their assets become quite ugly. That's just personal preference. You might like them, but for me, playing with vanilla high density residential zoning really affects the way that a city looks. So I'm going to be taking lots and lots of care with making each of these buildings historical. Okay, let's continue to map out some more zonable spaces. Again, I think I'm happy to keep the pathway between the zonings again, which is going to continually increase walkability and whatnot, and we can perhaps bring some further along here as well. I'm just happy to carry on with this specific zoning and not forgetting that we have the cycle network nearby as well. And continuing to run these vanilla dirt paths between our zonable spaces is just going to continually help the city's walkability, okay? Again, lots of opportunity now for more zonable spaces to come in, specifically zoned. Let's get some 4x3s in here. Let's make a little triplet of them there. And possibly repeat the design on the back end of the road as well. So you're going to be spending a little more time doing your zoning like this, but believe me, especially with high density residential, it's worth doing because it gets so ugly otherwise. It really does. So just try and be careful with it. Let's get a little pathway through here. Again, keep that walkability constantly going. You might be thinking, you know, all Egg talks about here is walkability. But it helps, alright? It helps. So I think I'm actually fancying perhaps a treed road. So I'm going to upgrade all of these internal high-density road networks into roads with trees. And I'm going to use one of the new content creator trees to upgrade them. Okay, let's come into those content creator trees now. Let's grab, I think possibly a live oak. And of course, in the vanilla game now, we can just left-click a road with a tree selected to upgrade the trees on the roads. Which for those that don't know, this is a functionality of the network skins mod, which is now available in vanilla. And I think these trees around the streets are just going to help give us just a little extra layer of detailing, okay? I can see again where there's more opportunity now for a pathway to come and hug around my plaza. Let's just get a little kind of sample now, right, of how saving some of these open spaces with the parkland can just help give some of this high density a little more breathing room. Okay, let's not forget about that philosophy either. Let's carry on placing in some more parkland, of course. It's always going to make the area more attractive for the Sims to live, which is always a good thing. There's a perfect spot there for a large playground. Let's drop that one in. Now, this is one of the assets that can be extended using the vanilla gravel path. Okay, and you can see where we have a little space behind the back. This is great opportunities again to find that same tree palette, which for these ones is this one right here. And then just open that park up out the back. Okay, very similar kind of designs and processes that we've been working with in the Noobs guide so far. Fill these in. You know, don't be forgetting to go around and historical them. If you are on the PC, there is a mod that you can download called Historical Districts, which kind of lets you make all the buildings historical in one area in one go, rather than having to do this by manually clicking them. But you're in the vanilla game, there are some limitations, but it can still be made to look pretty attractive, okay? Not too bad. So I'm not totally adverse to having some large blocks of high density residential. So I'm going to throw some in there, okay? But I also want to start discussing the possibility of some kind of mixed in zoning here, okay? So we're going to start bringing some office space in here today too. Alongside some commercial. So you're going to know all these people here, they're going to want places to shop. Let's provide them with a little commercial spot over here, okay? And maybe another plaza. Let's go for maybe the Paradox one, okay? We'll drop this one in. Again, there's opportunities for zoning to sit here and over here as well if we wanted to. Likewise, in this space. You can just kind of see now how that walkability opportunity just presents itself for feeding people through into different neighborhoods. I think I probably want these roads upgraded as well. And again, we'll just make sure that we're selecting the same tree of the live oak to make things as nice and as fluffy and as green as possible, alright? So high density residential, this is definitely the way I play with it. And certainly the way I prefer playing with it as well. But it won't be for everyone. Some people will just prefer to mass zone. But it's entirely up to you. So whilst this all grows up, I will be selected with some of the assets. I'm not a huge lover of these, but they're not bothering me too much for right now. Let's start introducing some high density commercial zoning, shall we? Since we're going to be creating like a little bit of a midtown here, okay? It's not quite downtown, but it's higher density. There's larger shops, some office zoning, etc. Let's go for, I think we'll actually specifically zone this so we get the 2 big corner units. That's going to be nice. We'll also do one there too. Why don't we have a look at a unique building for the first time? So this tab down here, unique buildings. What buildings appear here will depend on what DLCs you don't have. Each DLC does bring new unique buildings for the most part. And they're essentially kind of super parks, right? They have large entertainment values, they increase land value, and make Sims happy. So everything that we want to do, a unique building will do for us. And they also look quite nice as well. Okay, so there's a couple of little level 1s we can possibly use here. There's a Lazarette Plaza. There's also a Plaza of the Dead, which looks quite nice. It does have a noise pollution radius, so we want to be wary of that. I think we'll place it on the corner, and again, you're going to notice make everyone super happy. We also have Cycle Highway over here too. So let's make sure that we factor this in. Let's start bringing this one across, and we can allow it to run straight through the suburb as, you know, elevated cycling infrastructure. Let's also prepare a couple of junctions to come off. So you can just do like a really straight, simple junction if you want. You just come back down to earth like this, or you can start working with your curve tool. You know, and this is another network. It's going to function exactly the same as we did with our initial starting junction here. So let's just go ahead and find a pillar. I'm going to curve by 4, come down by 2, and then curve again, and then come down there. So now we can just create a little curved cycling junction. That's probably a little bit steep actually, but I'll sort that out during our design time lapse. Okay, there we go. So we're getting some corner units in now. And likewise with high density commercial, you might also want to make some historical. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to draw in another corner unit here now to hopefully get that one in. And then let's also start providing some office zoning here too, so people can start working nearby. But as we're going to start introducing office zoning, we're definitely going to need to address the fact that we need a university in the city because we need higher education for office zonings. So we'll place in a university as well. So universities become significantly more interesting with the campus DLC. You get to break down into 3 different types of university and you have all these new assets. One of my favorite DLCs is the campus one, but we're not playing with it just yet. So for you vanilla people, you will only have access to the university. I believe also with the Green Cities DLC, you get access to the Modern Technology Institute, which is just a different version of the regular university. So you can use that one instead if you want, but it does the same thing. And I think because it's kind of a little bit underwhelming, I think I'm just going to factor it into my main road design here and have it sit up against the highway and in and around the cycling infrastructure. So I think I'm going to be happier with that, okay? Very nice. You can also see opportunities yet again for more cyclability, I guess this time. You can have another junction land here for the cycle network. So, you know, don't forget to continually extend these public transport networks that you've already established as the city grows. Because you'll really notice a difference in the traffic, especially with the cycle highway now. You can just see how many people are starting to use this. You could imagine if all these were driving, just how many extra cars that is on the road. So cycling's really powerful, and it's important that we continue to acknowledge how powerful it is as the city grows, okay? Come into some of our taller trees, and why don't we start doing a little bit of detailing maybe. Let's grab some of our date palms here and line the side of our cycle highway. There we go. A little bit of low density commercial around the side too. Let's see how our high density area is getting on. Again, it's pretty fine for the most part. This is what I mean with kind of the buildings staying in or around levels 1 to 3. They're just a little more, I think, realistic for high density zoning. And you know, with high density zoning, it's going to hold more people, which means more cars on the road, more people will want to get to and from this area. Which is why it's so important, you know, as I've talked about basically this entire series as to how making your favourite assets historical will dramatically change the way that your city looks, alright? Fantastic. Let's get some more in here. So of course, these guys might need elementary school and high school education as well, which they do for the minute, but we do have the capacity in the city to support them. So I'm going to leave them empty for the time being. Okay, let's have a little look. Oh, look at that. We did get some repeated corner action. That's very handy. Okay. Very nice. But we can almost start to see midtown developing now, right? Just these little spots of higher buildings that are coming in. And this is what you'll start to notice when you're playing with the high density assets. And the office zoning too, which is kind of technically high density, I guess. Okay. Happy for some more buildings to come in here. Let's make sure we continually expand at the cycle highway over here too, and then we'll start having a look at the first Snowfall addition into the city. So Snowfall gives us trams, which, to be honest, in my opinion, is one of the only reasons to buy Snowfall DLC. You do also get snow maps and the snow theme. Again, I'll leave my DLC tier video link down below if that's something that you want to go and check out. Then you can. But coming into our public transport options, we have an option here for a tram, which again is added with the Snowfall DLC. We get a bunch of tram-specific roads, and of course, very much like our buses, we also get a tram depot, which you can see by its orange radius does have a noise pollution value, so you want to keep this away from residential areas. So why don't we start factoring this maybe over here to sit alongside our new cycle highway. So let's see what we can do to factor him in. So this gives us our tram depot, okay? As we now draw tram lines, trams will appear from this building. But there's something we can do to make this building just fit in a little more, okay? So I'm going to come back into my trams. Now I'm going to use tram tracks. So what these are just tram-only roads. Only trams can use these. Pedestrians will walk on them, but cars cannot use them. If you want cars and trams, then you must use a road with tram tracks. But with this road here, I'm just going to extend this out in a little box just outside of my tram depot. Almost as though it's some kind of maintenance yard for the trams, okay? A natural extension. Perhaps this is where, you know, trams are brought out to be worked on or stored if they're not going back into the main building. So you can get creative with using some of the assets for some pretend maintenance purposes. It's also going to help, you know, extend the tram asset itself. So I'm going to bring my cycle network back down here now. This is going to be great. And then let's start upgrading some roads to start functioning as tram roads, and we can get trams flowing as well. So definitely down this main road, okay? I'm going to have trams coming through here. And then I guess we'll bring them down into here. It'd be nice to have them converge with the metro bus and cycling that's happening over here. So let's upgrade this one. And then I'm going to bring my tram-only road out into this space. And I'm just going to make a little tram turnabout point here, okay? So I'm going to draw a little one-way tram box now. That is going to totally encompass this square here. I can continually complement this with low-density commercial if I want. Maybe a little bit of high density if you like. Okay, let's get some commercial assets in here. Again, continually remembering that the city can and should be as walkable as possible. We're going to see lots of people move back into between this tram network today. So we have a end of a tram line here. This is going to be wonderful. Let's continually upgrade the main arterial road. We'll take this all the way through here. Fantastic. And then I'm going to bring it down into the nightlife district. And it seems as though we've got a pretty sensible spot here. Yet again, where I can perhaps maybe bring this one out on an angle, and then I know I can downgrade this one again. Okay. Back into my trams, grab the one-way road. Then why don't we do kind of a curvier loop here, okay? Let's come off all of our snapping with our freeform tool. Make a little tram sort of turnaround curve. You can do various different shapes with these. Entirely up to your own interpretation, of course. And again, lots of walkability around this end of the tram stop. So now the tram can complete a full loop. I'm definitely going to extend this tram network down and out down this road once the city grows out this way, but for right now there's nothing over there, so I can't really extend it. Just a simple case of drawing in stops now alongside the tram roads. You'll notice that you can only place stops kind of on a tram road. So I'm going to have a stop here and here, so they're kind of symmetrical both sides, and then we'll come down the main road. You can stop at a couple of places here. Stop over here too, and then once in the turnaround point, and then back over here as well, and then it will complete the line. You'll notice again as the line completes, trams will begin to emerge from the depot. You can change the colour of these as with your buses, kind of up to you. And again, the game will decide just how many trams it wants to put out, which can be adjusted with your vehicle modifier. Of course, we don't want to forget about services. Let's come in and grab ourselves a fire station for this new development. Let's plop this on the corner here. That's going to squeeze in quite nicely. Likewise with the police station as well. Let's drop this one. You want to actually develop maybe a little bit of a frontage system here. Let's bring down another treed road. We'll have this one with road length and angle snapping them. Okay, and then have that go down there. Grab ourselves a police station. This can sit on the main road now. And I want to make sure that I'm still using my tree palette here. Alright, so hopefully now, just as the course of this episode has gone on, you can see the benefits of specifically zoning all this new residential. And we're starting to generate a little bit of a midtown over here, okay? Very nice indeed. Cycle highway is super busy. Start to see people pick up trams now as well. Okay. So you can just start to put all these different ideas together and just watch how people move around the city. It's so satisfying. There are like few things in video gaming as satisfying as city skylines when people start moving around. It's wonderful. See another spot there for a basketball court. I'm happy with that. Let's go ahead and get that one in. So I'm just monitoring now how large this area is growing. Okay. Lots of people picking up the cycle highway here too. I think what I am going to do with the buses, because the trams are here now, I'm going to move the buses probably onto this arterial road over here. That's probably going to make the most sense, so let's go ahead and drag those stops over this side instead. There we go, so they're just going to change their loop now so they're not overlapping with the trams. That's going to be great. And again, now as this area begins to develop, I think I'm happy to continually develop these high density vibes that are now beginning to kind of flank the main street. Again, I'm going to keep them in relatively large 4x4 lots. So we get nice even sized buildings. Here we go. It is very satisfying just watching the city move around. Wonderful to see. And likewise, I'm going to just historical these as they come in at level 1. And if you want to wait for them to move through the various levels, you of course can. But just how I like to play the game. Some people might find enjoyment out of this, others won't. Okay, well, there we go. Starting to develop a nice little kind of theme and aesthetic now, isn't it? And don't be afraid to continually include more unique buildings if you want. You know, there's friendly neighborhood parks you can get involved with, kind of larger, sort of more moderations, and you know, perhaps we can do something with this a little further down this way. So not everything has to be zoning. Feel free to get involved with unique buildings as well. You can definitely feel another park asset over here also. Let's go for... It's going to fit perfectly. If it fits, then we sit, which is great. And again, this is one of these assets that can be kind of naturally expanded. We can use that same tree palette yet again to just widen the asset a little bit. And then perhaps a little more high density residential zoning in and around these spaces. Lots of pathways going through as well. So the next thing I want to talk about is how we can start to transition to high density residential. So because they are high, as you can see, you look along one of the lateral lines, it's kind of an immediate jump. So using some lower density zonings around the edge of high density, it can just help it blend in a little bit more. So that's what we're going to do here. Of course, we're near a highway, so we want to make sure that we're not encroaching upon too much noise pollution. But this area here is going to be fine. Just going to include a little band of low density residential, and then probably a whole bunch of new trees, because trees will block some value of sound pollution as well. Not lots and lots, but it can be helpful. So I'm thinking just a little live oak forest that sits between this new residential area and the cycle highway. Why don't we also bring off an exit on the cycle highway here too? And again, let's continue to just bring in a very dense tree forest. Again, if you're on the PC, I'd highly recommend downloading a mod from the Steam Workshop called the Forest Brush. It does allow you to kind of paint out forest rather than manually placing every tree like that. Okay, but how easier does that fit in now? Okay, kind of a little forest behind the houses, and we now just kind of step up and up and up, and we have now kind of a micro crawling height, if you like. All right, very nice. And I'm loving all these live oaks down the street as well. It's giving kind of a really lush suburban feel. It's a nice design, that one. Okay, but our high density area is growing. So this right here is the symbol you will see once your landfill sites are empty. You do need to manually tell them to stop emptying and they can start to fill again. Likewise, this one is now full, so that needs to be emptied as well. So with the SNOWFALL DLC, you also get access to a building called the Road Maintenance Depot. So it will send out vehicles that travel around the city's roads, boosting their speed. So it's kind of a point of the fact that, you know, they're going out and maintaining the roads with a road maintenance depot. All right. So let's have a little look at this. Let's see where we want to place it. So it's not a loud building, but it's certainly industrial looking. So we want it to be somewhere in our industrial area here, I imagine. Let's go for... It looks like we can probably bring this up on a frontage road, actually, if we wanted to. I think we'll do it here. Let's come and upgrade this into big road. I am also doing the DLCs in order of release. I know we've had a few comments asking for Industries DLC, but I'm just going to do them in release order. So let's go into that road maintenance building. Now cleared out a little bit of space for it, and we can position this to sit right up against our main road. And that's going to blend into our industrial area quite nicely. And you can see the vehicles it sends out. So these are the little vehicles it sends out here, these little orange trucks. And he's just going to drive around the city, maintain the roads, which will increase the speed. Plus keep everyone moving quicker to wherever they need to be. Okay. Very nice. But we can just see how our little midtown area is starting to grow now, right? And this is all because we're taking time with specifically zoning and historical in buildings. We're making it look at least somewhat appropriate. Okay. So again, I can see that my residential demands are really starting to spike again. Everyone is having a wonderful time developing housing around here. So I'm going to continue to expand my little suburban road palette by bringing people down here, okay? Keeping everyone connected. Might connect into the arterial here again at some point, or again, just introduce a little bit of a frontage system to hold some roads against it. I'm a huge fan of doing this, and I hope for those that you are actually following along with this build, that you're seeing the aesthetic benefit, and indeed traffic benefit of using kind of frontage or express lanes in and around these sorts of areas. Because it makes a difference to the way things look, I think. It also gives us detail and opportunities too, which is always appreciated, right? Yeah, we can actually kind of angle the pathway here so it connects at both sides. Kind of like that, okay? That's going to allow people to walk through there. And again, I might want to upgrade into a content creator tree on these roads. How about some of these little pine-looking numbers? Does clash a little bit with the tropical theme maybe, but I think I can live with it. And again, I want more specifically zoned high-density residential here. Wary of the noise pollution from the tram depot. High-density residential is significantly more resistant to noise pollution. But look at this, we're getting death as well. So this just means that someone's died. Okay. There's a little skull and crossbones. It'll say that a dead person is waiting for transport. How long that transport takes depends on how far away your cemetery is. These guys will send out hearses to come and collect the dead. And then these will slowly disappear. Hopefully we'll see a hearse in action. Yes, there we go. The little coroner van. You even get the little, like, casket as well. Which is kind of funny. Okay. I'm just going to go up there. Okay. So that'll clear it up by itself. The only thing that will stop this from getting cleared is if one of your cemeteries is full. Very much in the vein of a landfill site. But you'll want to be using... crematoriums eventually, but they don't unlock until 16,000 population, which is a fair old way away yet. Alright. Cool. So let's carry on zoning up this new residential development. Okay, so things are growing here now. Definitely want to start providing some more elementary schools for these guys because they're starting to, whinge that there's not enough education around. Okay, we are getting still some larger death spikes here. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and place in another graveyard because we only have one in the city at the minute. So I did mention a couple of episodes ago when we talked about graveyards that the aesthetic appeal that two cemeteries can have kind of laid next to each other. So we'll use this as an excuse here, alright? So right here, we have a transitional point between low-density residential and high-density commercial, one of which is a very loud, pollutive, zonable area, which you can see with our noise pollution. So I definitely don't want any low-density residential here because they would complain and eventually die of noise pollution, which is not good. So this is a point now where I can show off the power that two cemeteries can have next to each other from a detailing perspective. So it's really just down to the continuous stone wall that you can generate along a road. It's essentially kind of a mini fence, okay? And two of them back to back just works nicely, okay? It's a little bit of stone wall decoration, if you like, for your city. And again, it can be continuously enveloped into your chosen greenbelt designs, right? People can get in here. Let's definitely get some more office zoning in this space too. Office zoning will satisfy industrial demand. I think I've mentioned that before, but just in case you're not sure, then it will. It's just higher education jobs, which is why we needed the university. Okay, well, things are growing. We can see we have no water here because my water pipes are becoming increasingly messier. For those that are fans of City Planner, you will be raging at my water pipe placement, but we started out the city in a space where we couldn't afford to place them under the roads, but you can start doing that if you want. So let's bring in a new school over here. Let's go for the regular elementary and partner it with a park. It always helps, okay? Usually the small playground goes quite nice with the elementary school. Kind of acts as like a playground for the school. It kind of acts as like a playground for the school, alright? That's going to be nice. And again, it's on a frontage network, so we can use it to, decorate the main road as well. Okay, I think I might even want to upgrade this little bit of main road here now into one with trees, and then we can change that tree into something that we're fond of. Perhaps some of the coconut palms here to lean into that more tropical feel that we're playing with on Diamond Coast. And I hope you're all enjoying me respecting the topography as well. I haven't terraformed any of this, and it's actually flowing quite nicely. I'm surprised by how well it's actually looking without terraforming out. We're letting the hills flow around and seeing this main street develop now. It's nice, isn't it? Okay, working on midtown. Wonderful. See, we've got another full landfill site here. Get it to empty. Probably a good shout to go ahead and place in another incinerator over this side as well. Check the line, see how many people are using them. There's a couple here and there. Okay. Lots of public transport convergence coming in now. 115 on the metros. Check how our bus lines are doing. Again, they're full. Traffic's happy. Lots of people walking around. This is where the satisfaction lies in the game for me. I could sit here at this view for at least an hour with like a coffee and just enjoy it. Just happy Sims walking around. It really is just makes you smile, Makes you smile. Alright. But Midtown's growing up here. I'm really happy with it. Definitely want some more like low density commercial possibly sat here. Okay. Now we can do some zoning that kind of faces out onto the industrial area, and we can do these just by going too deep. And it does create some sort of slight lower income style housing if that's a vibe that you want to generate. There's a specific 2x2 asset I'm talking about. I know we already have one in. It's over here, isn't it, somewhere? Yes, this one. There's a little 2x2 high density residential. Kind of has some lower income vibes about it. So you can try and zone those in if you want. You can see how we're getting them in here. But I'm happy with some of these too. Okay, just kind of a little a little more grim housing that doesn't have a nice view. You know, imagine it's like super cheap rent to live here, but that's your view every morning, right? It's kind of horrible. But again, you want to make sure that you are far enough away from pollution, which this guy probably isn't. Okay, so looking at that pollution graphic now, I definitely don't want people here. We can check it again. These should be okay, but we'll have to keep our eye on them. Okay, but we actually kind of got all the same asset in here, so I'm just going to let them stay historical and kind of a more dire, you know, frontage residential here now, right? It's a little bit more grim looking, I think, isn't it? Wonderful. Let's go ahead and play with another unique building, and let's see which one that we can drop down. How about a Lazarette Plaza as well? I don't want to use all the plazas. I do want to save some for the downtown eventually. We could possibly squeeze in a Lazarette Plaza over here. Again, it's just going to act as a unique building. It's going to draw tourists and visitors. But I think it's going to blend quite nicely in amongst my high density commercial that's growing over here. I'm going to keep this going. Alright. And again, just remembering that walkability palette. Keep them through here. Really looking forward to getting park life when we can start using these pathways. They're a lot more interesting than the regular ones. But, you know, Main Street's getting a nice view here now. Midtown is developing. We're working with higher buildings now. Some skyscrapers too, I guess you could talk, with the tower blocks here as things are growing up. Okay, so I hope this is all useful, and again, as to how you can start working with high density residential and make things look much more attractive and appealing just by taking care, you know? Yes, we're playing slower. You will slowly move through the city, but in my opinion, this is a much more enjoyable way of playing the game. Alright. Again, go around and do historical runs to set your districts up as you like them, or let them level up. Entirely up to you. So there is one thing I'm noticing, is that this, on occasion, is starting to become busy. So I think what we're going to do at this point is now upgrade this into a double-sided kind of highway slip ramp, if you like. So we're going to do this elevated, and then we'll look at some sort of detail in time-lapse for today as well. So we're going to break these roads. Okay, everyone's fine there. And then we're going to bring this one back a little bit too. With our lowest elevation step, of course, and we just want angle and road length on. We're going to come under the bridge. And I'm going to come up to this one. Again, remembering that for any crossed elevation point, we need to be at least at 3 elevation steps up. Now come off road length as we come into the middle. You can drop a pillar over there. You can double check the road length back if you want to find out it's 110. Which will take us out to there. So, nice symmetrical roads. Grab your one-way roads, and then you can just hook back into the bridge if you want. If you're not happy with the gradient, you can do this over a longer or shorter stretch, okay? But you can see how this highway interchange is now going to form. Again, we can just redraw these distances and see it's a distance of 122, so we can repeat that over here again too. That's what we're looking for, and you can even test these curves to see it's a distance of 440. And then draw them back in. Just make sure it's the same this side as well. Yes, it is. And there we go. So there's much more kind of prettier highway interchanges you can make than these, but it'll do us for right now. Then we'll bring this one down again too. And we can now start to have something over here. And what we'll do is, once we introduce mass transit, probably next episode, we're going to rebuild this interchange. And we'll talk you through how you can rebuild a highway interchange, because this is not an efficient design, like at all. This is a bad one. So we'll rebuild this into a 4-way, and then we can start expanding over here and doing more builds over this direction. So all very exciting stuff, right? But definitely want to turn off the lights here too. Yes, don't forget to do that. Come into your junctions like we've done before, and then just knock the lights off here. Okay, you can give stop signs to the on-ramps if you want. They're giving priority to the main road, but I don't really find it necessary. And you know, people now have access into the city this way, which is going to help us tremendously, alright? So just a really basic double-sided service interchange. Again, there's modular builds of these types of interchanges on the channel. If you want different designs, go and watch those videos. All helps you out, okay? We've got some of the new garbage trucks as well from the content creator pack. These ones are cute. So you'll often find that traffic lights, for at least in my experience anyway, for the majority of the time can actually slow down traffic. I usually prefer just to take the traffic light off the junction and let them flow. But, you know, each case is different and each city will be different as well. Okay, but wonderful. Everyone's moving around here. Everyone's happy. So we've spoken about transitioning into some high density vibes today. So let's start talking about how we can start transitioning away. So I want to start bringing in the low density residential patterns that are occupying this space. Again, it's pretty large zonable spaces, so I'm not too bothered about specific zoning here. So we'll get those in. And again, what I'm going to do now is place in a little park. This one's going to fit really nicely. That's going to be great. Let's not forget to, again, just extend the walkability of the area. And then just to help shelter that transition back into low density suburb, I'm just going to start introducing some thicker tree forests in and around all this high density, because they will help with the noise pollution, okay? It's also going to be nice to see some denser clusters of trees sat in around all these designs, okay? Happy with that. And then I think now maybe one more zoning of high density commercial. And then I'm going to start transitioning back into low density commercial. And then we can just kind of transition back out of midtown here, okay? Again, in the industrial area, we're getting these warnings here, which is not enough workers, which is fine. That just means that we need more population, which is represented by our big spike in residential demand. So just keeping your eye on the city. Okay, just making sure things are growing safely and people have enough workers, demands are being met, etc. And then we'll probably transition again into just a little low density commercial belt that can start decorating this street. And again, we're kind of continually working with layers of height here this episode to all contribute to kind of central midtown here, right? Which is represented by the taller buildings. This way of using the high density zoning's a little more appealing. Gives you a much more aesthetically pleasing city, I think, as well. Alright. However, guys, that does feel like a wonderful place for a detailing time lapse. We've got some work to do around the sides of the university here, decorate up our pathways. I'll probably bring in a couple more junctions onto the cycle network as well, just so it's more accessible. I start bringing in some tree detailing around the edge of our little tram maintenance building. And actually the road maintenance depot building probably would have worked quite nicely with the tram depot, so I might rework that one. Okay, bring this over here. And then just help all our new high density additions fit into the city a little bit more. But I hope you can see now, just kind of flying around the city, just what difference being careful with high density makes. It looks much more like a sensible midtown now from wherever you look at it. Okay, so I'm happy with it. I'm enjoying it. Let's detail it and we'll be right back. Okay guys, that is going to do it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. If you have, likes, comments and shares below really do help me out. If you've fallen in love with the content and would like to help support my work, there are links down to Patreon and Instant Gaming below. And equally as much, if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a dislike as well. Really happy with today's additions, and I hope you've maybe picked up a couple of things about how to work with the high density zonings. They can become ugly quite quickly if you don't take care, so I hope today's episode, nice and slow, playing with specifically sized zonings, continuing to introduce all this public transport network around it, and indeed some elevated bike infrastructure between the buildings now, which looks really nice. We can just start to create a little bit of a midtown, essentially like a practice for the main downtown, right? And we also introduced Snowfall today as well, playing with road maintenance depots and trams, which are some of my favourite public transport, so do hang around for the rest of the outro tag, and check out some cinematics around the new Noobs Guide City. Otherwise, I will shut up and I will leave it there. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.